Hello everyone! Welcome to our channel of confession and cheating stories. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and enable the bell notification to increase engagement before we move on to our video. Let's move on to our video. Friends, I have a confession to make. I had finished school, I was usually at home with my family, and I enjoyed working outside. One day, I got a call from someone who wanted me to marry their son. My parents told me to introduce them to our house and help them get to know each other better. I wasn't happy or sad. On the wedding night, when the groom's family came to our house, I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and I was worried. They had come without doing any research because they liked me at the wedding, and they hadn't met our family. To put it briefly, when I went to offer tea, everyone was looking at me. After his mother, I went to the groom's side, then I went to his parents, and when I brought them tea, they gave me that expression. After I sat down, the groom's father said, "Let's get to the point. Serkan is my child's name." He started talking about these things. They claimed Serkan was a mechanic. They have a house, a car, and they go to school. Everything is fine. Then they said, "If you go and do some research, you can see that my child is fine." "Yes, no doubt. We'll do some research and come to a decision," my father replied. They said they appreciated Serkan's point of view. I thought it was good that Serkan's mother offered to have a conversation with my child, but I didn't want to because I hadn't done any research yet. My mother said, "Of course, yes," and demanded that I talk to them face to face, even if they were perfect. I went to the room because I had to go. They said hello when Serkan closed the door behind me. For minutes there was silence in the room. Then they told me, "If I become your wife, I will give you anything you want." I thought, is this person talking too much about himself? I said, "I don't know you very well yet, but I want the best house and car, just like my parents' house was the best." "Don't worry, I can do anything you want," Serkan replied. "Just answer yes." "Let's get to know each other better," I added. "We will call you and give you our answer," my parents said after doing some research about their family. As a result, my father and brother started researching our family the next day. After a few days of research, my mother said, "I asked everyone, and they said they were fine. They had a garage and a car." "You can say whatever you want," my mother said. I said, "Whatever you say goes. I'll claim that everything is fine." Simply put, they interpreted the answer as yes. After that, they came, and we got married. The first few days of our marriage were wonderful. They gave me gifts and bought me everything they could. We were deeply in love with each other. After that, I would sometimes go to visit my parents' house. We would go to our room, and neither they nor I would talk openly about our relationship. But I thought to myself, God forbid, if we break up, I don't want any relationship until we go to our own house. They agreed. One day, when I went to visit them, I stayed at my parents' house. In the morning, Serkan went to work, and his brothers went to school, leaving me alone with their father. As usual, I woke up late in the morning, around 11 o'clock. I was getting ready at 9 o'clock when I heard a knock on the door. Then I realized it was my mother-in-law. "We have a lot of work to do at home. Come on, get up." "Son, get up," she insisted. "I won't go anymore," I said to myself as I stood up. I had to go. "They blame everything on me," I replied. I wanted to get dressed and get out of the house. I went out. "Where are you going?" my mother-in-law asked. "I'm going," I said. "What are you going by?" she asked. I answered, "By taxi," she said. "Why do you want to take a taxi? You will stay here." "Serkan will take you," he said. "Why would a married person take a taxi?" "What happened?" I asked. "What happened?" He yelled at me, "Go get in a non-Muslim's car and tell him your problem." I felt worried. After he suggested we have breakfast, I went to join him. After breakfast was over, he said, "Clean the table and wash the dishes." And then he said, "Prepare lunch." "Prepare something for lunch," he said, and expressed his willingness to do so. I was speechless, so I just said, "Okay," and walked away. I prepared lunch and washed the dishes. When I finished eating and went to sit down, they continued to question me. I was very angry. "When are you coming back?" I texted Serkan. "Why are we going crazy now because you got up at the crack of dawn and called me at 10 o'clock? They said, "Dear bride, let's have lunch together." My father-in-law looked at me and said, "This food is so good that I made it." "I cooked it well," I hastily added. I have nothing else to say. It is true, my husband never fed us like a normal person, and they were always angry and agitated. I wanted to express my discomfort to them, but I kept silent. I grinned as I waited for Serkan to arrive and leave. A year later, we decided to move into our own house, but my mother-in-law insisted that we stay in the building just downstairs. I objected, knowing her motivation and how uncomfortable it would make me, but Serkan said, "This is a nice place. You can't take Kay from us. After we buy this place, we will buy you a bigger house." I told my father that I hated this man, but I dutifully agreed. "Let him go. Don't leave him alone," they begged. In short, we visited our own house. We were sharing a house. One day I woke up at 8 o'clock when I heard our doorbell ringing. When it started ringing rapidly, I thought, "Oh my God, what happened?" When I went to check who it was, I saw my mother-in-law's face. My mind said, "Let me open the door." When I opened the door, she came in. I have never seen anybody sleeping. I didn't get up and clean up because I didn't see her. "What happened?" she asked. This woman was so unbearable for me. I was at my breaking point. She hadn't come to my house and treated me like this in a very long time. I told Serkan. He said, "Don't say anything to my mother." My mother-in-law then went into the kitchen. She searched the refrigerator and all the cupboards. She was one of the people I hated, and I hated this. There was nothing I could do. After realizing that telling Serkan would have no consequences, I chose my next course of action. Leaving me alone was the smartest move. I wanted revenge, but I wasn't sure how to do it. I had to put up with her nonsensical comments and behavior every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was getting frustrated with this woman. I couldn't help it. No one understood. I waited a long time for the next day. To make a long story short, my mother-in-law once said, "Tomorrow I want to visit my family in the village." She said, "Let's go." I said, "I'm not coming. My father-in-law promised to take some time off and spend time at home. He promised to take care of the house while you were away." The next day, Serkan went to work, the children went to school, and my mother-in-law left. My father and I stayed downstairs, and naturally I went upstairs after waking up at 9 in the morning. I made breakfast for my father-in-law, who was awake. I sat next to him while he ate because I wanted to be with him on purpose, but He didn't want to because he was ashamed. I touched his hand because I wanted revenge. He hurried back and apologized to his daughter-in-law. "No, Dad, it's okay," I replied. "You and I know each other now, so relax." My father-in-law jumped up with a start and walked to his room. After clearing the table, I went to his room. There was no better time to be in a relationship with him. When I opened the door, I found my father-in-law lying on the floor. "Layla, has something happened?" he asked. I said, "No." I went in and closed the door. This time your father-in-law intervened. "What are you doing, daughter?" he asked. "I can stay with you for a few days while your husband is away," I offered. "How can I prevent him from finding out?" Surprised, my father-in-law said. "What are you doing, daughter? You are not feeling well. What happened?" "Calm down. No one will understand anything," I whispered as I walked to sit on his lap. After a few words, my father-in-law changed his mind and expressed his desire to continue. To make a long story short, we made love that morning, and I promised him that he could make love whenever he wanted. My father-in-law was still upset, but he couldn't look at me because I was 100 times better than his wife in every way. According to my father-in-law, it would be bad for both of us, and no one should know. I had a good few days while Serkan's mother was away, and I assured him that no one would ever know that you were my father-in-law. I was even more pleased to get my revenge, and we both enjoyed it. My dear mother-in-law returned a few days later. In the mornings, I was usually at her husband's house, and she was usually at home. I did not have the opportunity to visit her. The situation was very bad, and the children came at noon. So I decided to ask Serkan's father to come downstairs when he left for the next shift. It was a very clever idea. No one would know I was visiting my daughter-in-law's house. 15 minutes after 4 o'clock, after I texted him to come, there was a knock on our door. It was my wife's father. He was home when I opened the door. I locked the door so that we would know immediately if Serkan returned. In short, we were sitting there hugging each other and chatting until the bell rang. I hurriedly got up and went to my mother-in-law. "Why did you lock the door?" she asked. I said I locked it in case a thief came in. She pushed me and went in. As soon as she saw her husband, she asked me, "Why did you come here? What's going on here?" "I came to visit my daughter-in-law. That's all." "What's wrong with you?" she asked, and he was silent. "Come upstairs quickly," she insisted, and went out. "I will go, but I will come back another day when I am not busy," my father-in-law replied. He must have suspected us to keep us so long. I thought to myself, how could a mother, who had every right to be angry, infuriate me and encourage her child to be kind to me? "I will take her husband away from her and make sure she never sees him again. I'll tell Serkan that my friend's house is nearby, and I'll go back, but she's a stupid woman, and one day she'll come back and say she has work and she's leaving. She will find her mother there. I told her to let him know I wasn't there to stop him coming downstairs. When my father-in-law arrived at 5 o'clock, I opened the door. After closing the door softly, we went inside. I went in stressed and told myself he would be back. My father-in-law said, "Let's move fast. Maybe my wife will return. Come with me to the room." I convinced myself that I had a heart because this was for revenge. I was relieved to be away from her for a few days. My father-in-law had once decided early to visit his sister's house. My father-in-law then contacted me and invited me tomorrow. The next morning, as soon as Serkan, his mother, and the kids left, I went upstairs. When I got to my father-in-law's room, we were together. He was so excited that we were dating again. The door to the room was closed. We were sleeping the same way, and we were harassing each other in this way. I told my father-in-law that I was going to meet him. I was worried that someone would come, but he said, "No, no one will come. My wife was going to be late. He claimed he would come at night." As soon as I said that, my mother-in-law started shouting, and I saw the door of the room open. I got scared. When my father-in-law closed the door, his wife said, "You have done very well. It's unbelievable that everything I did for you led to this." As soon as she finished speaking, she hurried into the next room and closed the door tightly. He was absolutely convinced that today was going to be the day, and everything was going to turn out that way. I hurried downstairs because I didn't believe it was going to happen. I was sad. I was angry because I had cheated on my husband by meeting with their family. I wasn't sure what I would do if they told Serkan. I felt remorseful. Oh my God. But at the same time I felt satisfied because I had hurt them as much as they had hurt me. My father-in-law later told me that he went to his wife and told her that he had been with her. "Please don't tell anyone," I heard him say. "This will ruin our lives and the lives of our children." I apologize. It was an accident. It won't happen again. My mother-in-law couldn't attend because she has 2 other children. Our lives would have been ruined, so she had to agree. From that day on, we continued to disagree as a unit. We hated each other, even though I came and went from time to time. But we had to make sure Serkan didn't understand. Every time I saw Serkan, I was reminded of the big mistake I had made. All I could do was feel very bad for Serkan. I loved them as much as Serkan loved me. It was because of their mother. She had the right, but Serkan and their father didn't. I felt sorry for those 2, and I didn't feel sorry at all. So that concludes this narrative and confession. We have come to the end of this story. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the bell notification to be informed about our stories before anyone else. See you in our next cheating story. Goodbye.